Hello there, it's Carrie Rhodes here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today is the November Club Kit video. I am going to be making 8 cards using club kits from Spellbinders for the month of November 2023. So let's jump right in and check out all the club kits I'll be using. These are ones you can subscribe to and get delivered to your door. This is the large die called Towering Blooms, the Better Press plate called Sentimental Mosaic, the clear stamp and die set, Sending Sentiments, and the Glimmer kit, All You Need Sentiments, embossing folder called Meandering Floral. Then we have a 3D embossing folder, Crisscross Motif, and the wax seal of the month, Blooming for You. So what I'm going to do is make a bunch of backgrounds to start off with, and I'm going to start with this Better Press plate. This is so gorgeous, and it comes with 3 sentiments that you can better press also. So I'm not going to start with better pressing like the traditional way, but I'm taking a piece of stamping foam and I'm heating it up with my embossing gun. When it gets really warm, you can take anything that has texture and press into that foam and really kind of create your own stamp. So I really wanted to try this technique with this really awesome Better Press plate with this mosaic pattern, and so I'm really just pressing it in because there's so much detail. So I think it came out pretty good. Next, I'm going to take this limestone gray ink and just brush that over the top to get the ink onto that new texture, and that's going to create a stamp for me. So then I'll take my paper that is, I believe this one is 4 inches by 5 1/4, and I'm just going to hold it on one side and press on the other side, rubbing until I get the pattern pressed onto the paper, and it is fabulous. All right, so I loved it so much. The texture was still great, so I decided let's make another background with some different colors. So I have 3 different shades of green, and I'm going to have them be like an ombre from light to dark. So I did my light and my dark and then my medium color in the middle. And then I'll press that down just as I did before, always holding one side while I rub the other side, making sure not to forget about the middle. And there we have it. So this one's just a little bit more messy, but I don't mind backgrounds that are a little bit more messy. I love making my own backgrounds with ink and different techniques. So I'm quite used to having stuff that's a little bit, more shabby. So next I wanted to try this with the 3D embossing folder, and I'll say this one is probably my least favorite of all the backgrounds that I made, but not because of the awesome embossing folder, but like it just I didn't get the results that I really loved. But even though there's going to be ones in here that I don't love and backgrounds that I totally messed up on, I found ways to use them. So I hope that I can kind of share some of my tips and tricks for using these things when they're not like your favorite. So I am doing another ombre one here, but kind of from corner to corner. And this one will have that darker corner and the lighter corner. And I will end up using this one on the background of a card as well. So you'll see these cards come to life as we go. But as you heat up the foam, the pattern that's there will disappear. And so while it's still hot, I pressed into it again, and this is the regular embossing folder. I'm using the back side of this folder, where on the previous embossing folder, I used the front side. So one is going to have a debossed look and one's going to have an embossed look. So it's just going to affect the kind of print that you get when pressing it on here. So I went totally with dark purple. I did cut my paper a little bit bigger because I was getting my hands kind of inky. So I decided I would get a little bit bigger piece of paper for this, and that is so cool to have the lines pressed down and the flowers remain white with a dark outline. I spritzed this with water and I was like, you know what? I think I could pick up another background and get a little bit more of a watercolory look, but it came out so great. There was still ink there, so I even made a third one, and I liked all 3 of them. So don't waste your ink when you're doing this, especially if you use a dark color. Most likely you can get more than one print, even if that means adding a little bit of water. So this is the real watercoloring one, and you just have a different look with each one, but still 3 great backgrounds. So we'll set those backgrounds aside. We're going to now work with the large die of the month. Here I'm showing you all the pieces die cut out. There are little centers for your large flowers. There is a medium-sized flower that works with this little stem. There are little blooms that fit onto a branch. You've got one stem with no leaf, and then there's a larger stem with a leaf. There's 3 words. It's a great stamp set. So I'm going to put this together on the first card as the example shows it with the packaging for this die set. So first I wanted to add a little bit of color, so I'm bringing in some purple ink and these really small blending brushes from Spellbinders that can help you add a little bit of color to your die cuts, or they work great on really small spaces of a stencil or adding shading on a stenciled image. So very cool. They come in a set of 3. I'm going to get some more sets because I'm loving them. All right, so now we're going to build up this branch. So there is a solid outlined piece for the bloom, and then there's a more detailed one. Spellbinders is known for their detail in their dies, like the little cuts that create a line down the center of the leaf or in the petals. Like, it's so good. So you'll notice that on pretty much any die set you get from Spellbinders, and it really brings this particular die set to life. Like, what would these look like if those lines weren't there? You know, it's just made more amazing because of it. All right, so with a single stem that has no leaf, there's these 2 little circles that get die cut out, they're more oval-like, but they're for the center of the flower. Like, there's a little bloom in the center, and then there's the little circle in the center. Now for the vase, I have this vase that was kind of looked like it was made from cement, but it was more of a cream color, but that's kind of what inspired me to kind of stipple the gray vase so it would look kind of like it's made of stone. So that's the look I was going for. It was just fun to do. All right, so now I'm putting things into the vase, gluing them down, just like the picture on the packaging shows. There's usually an example with your packaging how to use the die set, and so that's what I'm doing here, just following that along. I kind of like to do that sometimes when I'm first playing with something, and then I just kind of get a feel for all the pieces and helps me familiarize myself with it. So that's what I'm doing. You could probably build this on your card base. Some of the pieces are really thin, but I built most of it just like this and then laid it down. I'm using that very first stamped mosaic background in the light gray ink that results from pressing the Better Press plate onto that stamping foam. And it's a really fun, subtle background for this card. I love how parts of these large flowers are flat so they can fit into like the corners of the card. So fun. So now we need to add a sentiment here. And remember, in the large die set of the month, there are 3 die cut words: hello, you, and smile. So I'm going to use the word hello. I use the negative piece where I die cut out the word to kind of help me line it up. But I will tell you, every time I do something to help me line something up, inevitably it is crooked. I do so much better freehanding things, eyeballing it. But, you know, I was able to rearrange it a little bit and make it look a little better. Now I am bringing in the Glimmer kit of the month. This is all sentiments. It is so awesome. All you need sentiments. So there's like birthday, thank you, congrats, Christmas, like it has everything. You can foil these all at once, and then there's a die that cuts them out into banners all at once. Those are the things that we love, right? Makes quick and easy work. You have sentiments you can store with this set that you can pull out and use again later. I love it. So I left these out on my desk, and I will use a few of them in today's cards because it's just so handy to have it already done. And the foil that I used is just silver foil. I thought silver goes really good with the gray and the purples in my card. I wanted this one to say happy birthday, and so I chose that banner, and I'm going to have it hang off the card a little bit, and then I'll just trim off the excess. So it'll be flush with the edge of that. And then this panel is going to fit onto an A2 sized card base with a little bit of a white border all the way around, which is how I love to make my cards. I like to have that layered look. All right. that is card number 1 with the large die of the month and the Better Press and the hot foil kit of the month. Okay, we are moving on to card number 2, but first we're going to talk about hot foiling. I'm going to do a few hot foil backgrounds. So I have the Better Press plate here, which I don't know if you knew, but you can hot foil with your Better Press plates. I have silver foil here, and I did not get the best impression right there in the middle. Not a lot of the foil transferred. So we're going to fix that, but first I thought, well, let me just try to do a solid plate and my excess foil, my leftover foil from that print, and create a reverse hot foiled print. So I did that, and again, because it didn't come out great in the middle on the first one, the middle didn't come out great on the second one. So I remembered some things that some tips that I like to do when hot foiling solid pieces, and that is to turn your plate so it goes in at an angle. I also used a second shim, which I like to do when doing something solid, and then it came out so much better. Now when you turn things to the side, sometimes your plate is going to want to extend past that heating pad, and it will go onto the plastic. If it does that, it's going to press into that plastic and leave a mark. So be really careful when you turn things that they don't overlap that heating plate, although it won't ruin your Glimmer hot foil system. I've done it. So now let's do a traditional Better Press as it's intended. I have it here on the Better Press platform. I'm using mulberry ink, which is kind of a purple ink, and the cotton paper I'm using from Spellbinders has a light gray tint to it. I've taped it to that top platform, and then I magnet it down, run it through the die machine, and the ink transfers it to the paper and presses it in. It's so gorgeous. It's really hard to kind of capture what the look is on camera, but to have it pressed down into the paper, it's just cool. So I added some wisteria ink there in the center, and this is the one we're going to start off with. Even though I made the hot foiled ones first, we'll get back to those. I'm going to turn this Better Press plate background into my next card. So I'm stamping out the word sending. This is from the clear stamp set of the month, and it has several big sentiments and then supporting sentiments you can build with them. So I'm going to do this 3 times because there's 3 different ways I wanted to use it on my cards, and I embossed them with silver embossing powder, die cut them out, and now for the first one I'm going to stamp my sub sentiment from that same stamp set with some purple ink, and it is going to be the sub sentiment for the word sending, and it says belated birthday wishes. There is this strip die to die cut out the sentiments in there that's long enough for the longest saying, and then on the shorter ones you just trim it down. So now let's put all the things together. I have some more flowers die cut from the large die of the month. They're so pretty. I'm going to use them on all the rest of the cards, but in different ways than they were on the original card in the vase. So I'm going to overlap my sentiment with this flower, and it's so pretty with this background. I love it. So this card, making this card with the flower in the background, the words overlapping it, it kind of inspired all the rest of the cards, and I love it. I had the little part of the D coming down over the sentiment, and it is gorgeous. So pretty and simple. I tend to make cards that are really busy, but I also love the process of like making my own backgrounds and then turning those backgrounds into cards. And to dress this card up a little bit, I have some really light purple. These are Amethyst rhinestones that have like an iridescent finish to them, and all the gems that I'm using today are from Trinity stamps. You can see they have them in lots of colors. I will link them for you below so you can check those out if you're interested. And that completes card number 2. Let's move on to card number 3, where I'm using that silver foiled, hot foiled background that didn't turn out great, you know, with the Better Press. So I'm just going to add some of that wisteria ink there in the center, and you can still see the, you know, the hot foiling when you turn it in the light, but I'm going to build up my you know, focal point of this card right there in the center. It's kind of going to just cover that up, and I can still use this background even though I know it could be better. I'm still going to use it and it's going to be okay. All right, so then we'll add the word sending. This time to go with the word sending, I'm using one of those hot foiled sentiments from the Glimmer Hot Foil Kit of the month. So it can be paired with other things in this month's club kits, which I love that Spellbinders has their club kits so that they work well together, because I like to get several of the kits like this video and mix and match everything and just set out to playing with all the things together. So here you can see I have some darker purple gems that I'm going to add, one to the center of the flower, and then just put those in and around my sentiment to add some bling. And these also have an iridescent finish, so very pretty. And then this will get mounted onto an A2 size card. This is the only card I have that is landscape. I tend to always make vertical cards. I mean, most of my cards, I would say, are vertical. All right, let's move on to card number 4. We're going to better press our sentiment to go with the word sending. And this says, many thanks. I'm using mulberry ink again, but this time I'm going to use a little scrap of watercolor paper. It works really well with watercolor paper as well. And there I thought you'd want to see the better press just rolling right through my Platinum 6 die cutting machine, pressing that word into the paper. So cool. All right, so for the background on this card, I am bringing in one of those that are stamped, but where we made the stamp with the embossing folder. This is the embossing folder of the month, and it's the Meandering Floral is the name of it. So if you don't get any of the club kits, they are currently now available for you to go and pick out the ones you want, order them. Like I said, they do come every month to your door. So if you decide, oh, I'm done with that, you can stop your subscription at any time. And I'll say, based on my experience, that the club kits are a really good value for the money. I'm always impressed with the things that I get from Spellbinders. I actually really love that this month there are so many sentiments, because that allowed me to really play with the backgrounds, play with the flowers, and a sentiment is something you can always come back to and always use on any card. So I love it. All right, so now we're adding this to an A2 size card base, and this one's going to have a little bit of a border, but only at the top and the bottom. You'll see here, it goes edge to edge on the sides with the border at the top and bottom. Just a little bit of a layered look, and I love that too. All right, so now let's use some dark green gems on this one. This one's really heavy with the greenery and just one little flower peeking out. It's so fun. And I did die cut out my many thanks that was pressed with a circle die, and that just fit right in with those leaves, and that finishes up that card. So fun. I love the watercolory background. All right, so now we're coming in with this background that I didn't quite love with that I used that stamping foam and the 3D embossing folder. I'm going to try to line that up with the 3D embossing folder and run it through again. It needed a little life to it. So I feel like I was able to do that. I opened it up, sprayed the back with just 2 little spritzes of water so it didn't crack the paper. It lets it be more pliable in the 3D embossing folder. And then I'm going to come in with some ultraviolet ink, and I'm going to ink up. I thought I was going to go just around the edges, but as I was doing it, I'm like, oh, I'm going in. I'm going to have an ombre look on this one. I'm going to go in towards the center, and then because I already had that light purple ink, before I embossed it again, it just really has a cool effect. All right, so now we're coming back to the stamp set of the month and stamping out the word happy. I wanted it to match my card but also be embossed. So I inked up the stamp first with Versamark ink, which is a clear sticky ink, and then I'm coming in with my dye-based ink in that ultraviolet, and I stamped over the top of what I already stamped in the Versamark ink. And it's lined up perfectly because I used my Misty, and then I poured clear powder over the top, and this is totally going to match my background. Love it. And the dies for this set, the clear stamp set of the month, cut around these words so good, and it seemed really easy to line it up, and it even cuts out like the center of the P. Oh, it's really good. All right, so then we're going to bring in the sub-sentiment from the stamp set of the month that says birthday, I wanted to have a lot of thank you and birthday cards, you know, kind of build up my stash. But I actually have another idea for the set of cards I'm making today, which I'm going to share with you at the end because a little surprise thing happened to me as I was creating these cards. So there's my birthday embossed with white powder on some dark purple cardstock. And then as you can see, that die is big enough to cut out the biggest sentiment, but when I have a smaller one, I can just trim off one end, and it's a nice straight way to do this. Sometimes I get it a little off when I use my paper cutter. So nice to have a die like that with the set, and I totally took advantage of it. All right, I've glued down my stem, and when you're gluing over the top of some highly textured paper like this one from the 3D embossing folder, you really want to have a little bit extra glue, give it a little extra love and patience to get it stuck down. And then I'm going to glue down the word happy. I used very little foam squares in the making of these cards today. I just wanted them to be easy to mail. However, the gemstones, if you put gemstones on your card and you mail them, just put it straight in the envelope. A lot of times the gemstones will rub a hole in your envelope. And so when your recipient gets it, it might have these little holes, and then your gems could more easily rub off. So if you do that, sometimes you could just take 1/4 of a sheet of cardstock and put that over the front of your card, and that won't happen. So there's a little tip for you. All right, so then I have some light green gems. These all have really cute like gemstone names, inspired names. You can see them in the description box below. I'll have them for you. All right, so then when I mounted this one on, my paper kind of shrunk down when I ran it through the die machine, and I had a little bit of extra space. So I cut about, this was under 1/4 of an inch strip, and I just glued it there at the bottom, and it was like a fun little accent piece, and I absolutely love how that card turned out. All right, we're coming in with the background for card number 6 that I stamped my Better Press plate onto the stamping foam, inked it up with the 3 shades of green, and that's going to be my background, and I'm putting one of the largest flowers in each corner. So it's going to create a little bit of a flowery border, especially once I add in the green leaves. And you can see I've done all the shading with those tiny little blending brushes, and it really brings these flowers to life. And so each leaf is going to connect to each flower, kind of continuing the look of the frame all the way around. And I just used this one leaf that kind of looks like it's drooping out of the vase, but once I tucked it under the flowers, it totally worked for my design here. All right, so then all we need is a sentiment, and I have all of those sentiments already hot foiled, and I am going to pop this one up right there in the center of my card, and then add some of those dark purple gems. I really like gems in the center of a flower. I'm sure a lot of you do too. So that's what I did, and gorgeous. So very pretty. I added some around the flowers too because I couldn't help myself. And that is going onto our A2 size card. It'll have a border all the way around. So pretty. Love that mosaic Better Press plate. All right, so let's bring in this piece that really was a fail. I just cut off one side that worked, and I'm going to use that on this stamped background. Remember, this was stamped on the stamping foam with the embossing folder of the month, the Meandering Floral. And then for my branch, I am not using that solid layer that goes behind these blooms. I'm just put the blooms right on the green piece, and then the green peeks through. I really liked that look. So to help my silver foiled piece stand out on this card, I'm going to give a little bit of an edge peeking out from under there, and it will help it stand out from the purple background because I've got the 2 different shades of purple there. All right, so then I decided at the last minute I needed a little bit of silver watercolor splatter, and so I added that, let it dry, and then we can put all the pieces together. So first up is the branch, adding quite a bit of glue to this one as well because it's going to go over different layers of cardstock, like a bump in the card, so I want to make sure that that has every opportunity to stick down. And then one of my hot foiled sentiments is getting added. Thanks a million, and it is popped up as well. We'll add this to our card base, and this one is going to have the border only at the top and the bottom of the card, and then we'll add some of those dark purple. I think these are Tourmaline gems. Such cool names, especially my kiddo is totally into all things rocks and gems and crystals and fossils and all of those kinds of fun things. So I think it's fun that these have names like that. All right, we'll glue those in place, and you know, the use of a pickup tool is so life-changing when you're adding gems to your cards. I have to say, I cannot live without that tool. All right, so there it is, all finished, and next we're going to bring back that bad hot foiled piece, but use it to cut out the pot, and that is going to be the perfect size so that I have used up that background and you know, not wasted it, because it was potentially very cool, but it didn't work out the way I wanted. So I just found another way to use it, and using pieces of it to, you know, like a strip I did on the previous card or on a die cut element is the way to use those things that don't always turn out how you want them to. You don't have to rip them up and throw them in the trash, which I sometimes do when cards frustrate me, but there should be no stress in stamping. It's just paper, right? A little bit of paper, a little bit of foil. Don't let it stress you out. This is fun. This is our stress relieving activity, right? All right, so I have my flower here with that one droopy leaf, which is so cute. And then I stamped "For You," and I did not like it. So I had to come up with plan B, and that was to stamp out the word "hello." And I stamped it with the lightest color ink, came back, and created an ombre effect by bringing in the mid color, like mid-tone, and I only stamped up the bottom 2/3 of, or inked up the bottom 2/3 of the stamp, then stamped that down. Then the third time I only inked up the very bottom and stamped that down. Now, if you don't like, it kind of gets a harsh line. If you don't like the harsh line, you could use those little blending brushes to kind of blend out the ink a little bit and make it softer. All right, so I brought in some silver twine and put some dry adhesive like tape runner down on my cardstock, and then I'm just kind of creating a little pile of twine. Now this is old school, like I used to do this a lot several years ago, but I needed something to help cover up that "For You," because the die cuts out this word "hello" so close that some of it was still peeking through. So I'm masking the word "For You" is under there, and I figured out exactly where to line up my letters on the word "hello" to cover that up. And yeah, it's going over a very textured surface, so I had to just be patient with it, press it down for a minute. And then on this card, I'm going to bring in the light purple and the light green gems and put the purple in the center of the flower and the light green around my sentiment there. And I think "hello" is perfect because later you could add on the inside of your card, you know, a thank you, a happy birthday, or maybe you just want to write a note to somebody. So I like "hello" on a card when you're indecisive. Okay, that card is finished with its gems. It's going to be added to our card base, and it's going to have a nice white border all the way around. Love it. So pretty. Okay, now we're going to take a look at all 8 of the cards. You can see them in order, and I had so much fun creating these. When I am making sets of cards like this, just having everything out on my desk, like I had the purple inks, I had the green inks, I had my gems, my embossing powders, my hot foil system. It helps you kind of be creative in different ways with the products that you have, and one idea can build on the next idea, like using the foam. Oh, why don't I try that with the embossing folder now? You know, things like that. So I just encourage you to, you know, get out your stuff and play. I hope that you're inspired by today's cards, but that is not all. No, because once I finished creating these cards, my delayed wax seal of the month kit arrived in the mail, but I had not yet finished editing the video, so I decided to go ahead and make some wax seals with this wax seal of the month. It's called "Blooming for You." It says "For You" on it, has some really cute flowers, and I thought I would make 8 of these to go with all 8 of my cards, which inspired me to Now think of these cards in a new way, and that is to create a gift set where you give all 8 of the cards with 8 envelopes. You gift the wax seals with some glue dots. Spellbinders actually sells some sticky circles that are perfectly sized for a wax seal, so you can add them onto your envelopes later. So that's what I'm going to do. I also wanted to bring a little bit more interest to the wax seal with this silver brush pen that is perfect for adding a metallic touch to that raised up image in the wax seal. And so I did that to all 8 of these. You might want to have a ventilated area when you do this because it has a strong smell. So there's all 8 of them. I'm going to add them to a little bag, and you can see I've got my glue dots there ready to go. And then you just bring in your cards, your envelopes, your wax seals. Maybe you could even put a nice pen and make this a really nice gift. It would be great for Christmas. I know that I have some relatives in my family that don't make cards, and they really love when I give them something like this. So it's just a matter of deciding who's going to get it, right? So in the comments below, I would love to know if you maybe learned a new technique or if you have a favorite card, let me know. I know that I love sharing my creations with you, and I hope that you feel inspired when you watch. I thank you so much for your thumbs up, for liking my videos, for subscribing, and of course for clicking and shopping my links. It means so much to me to be able to get to do what I love because of you. Happy stamping! Bye!